Welcome to Start with Hello Conversations about Disability. This episode, we want to talk a little bit about how to get men involved in disability ministry. To get started, I wanted to toss out a few statistics that we have found pretty interesting. First, according to a U.S. Congregational Life Survey, there is a large gender gap in the American church. Men only make up about 39% of regular church attendance. If we look beyond just mere attendance and turn our attention to the volunteer workforce, we will see the gender gap widen even more. The volunteers in churches are predominantly female. Now, if I think back to all of the disability ministry training and seminars that I have attended, I remember looking out across the room, and outside of staff, men were pretty much absent. I can only see a handful of fellows in the room. At a recent conference, I was having this discussion and brought up some statistics that I heard a while back, and I was a little shocked to hear that there was not any data to support actually what I was saying or what I have heard. So I want to throw this out there, and maybe you've heard this one. Up to 88% of marriages fail when there is a child affected by disability. An overwhelming majority of the time, it is the man that leaves. Single moms are left to try to hold together their family with improbable responsibilities. So I'm wondering, have you heard that? Because I've seen it, I've heard it, and I haven't heard anything to the contrary until I ended up at this conference. When I did some digging into this myself, I found some research shared on the National Library of Medicine website, which I'll link in the show notes. And then here's what they came up with. In conclusion, we found that divorce rates were not elevated on average in families with a child with developmental disabilities. However, in small families, there was a significantly higher risk of divorce relative to a normative comparison group. Now, if you're listening and have data to support that 88% failure rate claim, I personally would love to hear it. Feel free to send that in with a link, because that's something that everybody here on our team would love a chance to review. Even if that's not the case, we still see that in small families, there is a significantly higher risk of divorce. And all of this brings up some pretty potent questions. What if there wasn't a gender imbalance in the church? What if men weren't absent or hiding on the sidelines? What if men were involved? How much of a difference would it make, not only in the church, but specifically in the world of disability? We would argue that the difference would be far beyond anything that we could measure. The fact of the matter is that men need the church, but more importantly, the church needs men. The presence of excited men is one of the surest indicators of church health, growth, and giving. So the question is, how can you get men excited about serving in your church, specifically in the world of disability ministry, an area where they are sorely needed? So here are some key concepts that we would recommend you start with. First, there is a place for every man to serve. If you cannot find a place for everyone, you probably aren't thinking big enough about disability ministry. Second, we want everybody to think outside the box. Yes, this is about getting creative, but that's not the entire conversation. If you want to find a place for everyone, then you will need to get outside the box, which the box is your Sunday morning programming inside the walls of the church. Sunday morning is only part of one day of the week. There are 6 more days where men can serve. Next, we want to call men to action. And I think I can relate to this, that we're not attracted to doing something merely just to fill a spot or a need. We need an opportunity to make a difference, and we want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. Also, using the word forever can scare men away. Make sure to offer multiple one-time events and service opportunities with well-defined start and stop dates. No one likes to be locked into doing only one thing forever. For those serving long-term, scheduled time off and breaks are critical. Lastly, don't wait for men to become men. Start by recruiting boys who are leaders in your student ministry. Don't limit yourself just to high schoolers. Middle school boys are more than capable of serving in your disability ministry. I am certainly not going to speak for every single man or every single ministry here. I'm just going to give you what I personally have experienced, and hopefully you can take that, couple it with our other resources, and have a greater impact at your church. That being said, before I first started serving, everything seemed too intimidating for me. What if I said the wrong thing? How do I know how to work with a specific diagnosis? What training do I have? What knowledge have I gained? What if I don't understand someone? What if they run away? What if they just don't want to talk to me? These were all questions that ran constantly through my mind. And I would venture a guess that I'm not the only one who has felt that way. So if you take a guy who has never served in disability ministry before, place him at a weekend camp where he really has to dig in like never before, that's a pretty big thing to ask, especially of a brand new volunteer. Sure, a lot of folks step up and do it, and a lot of folks do it fantastic. But for others, that's a big barrier to entry, and it's just too great. Where I have seen success has been lowering that barrier to entry and providing an easier on ramp into serving. For example, it might be tough to explain to a guy why he should come serve at camp, where he might have to change briefs. He might have to change clothes of another man or help somebody else shower. These are things that I feel like we're just initially uncomfortable doing. But it's far easier to invite a new volunteer or potential new volunteer and say, hey, we're having a guys' night. All we're doing is hanging out. We're bowling. And there's not really a whole lot of responsibility that you're placing on this new volunteer. And by just hanging out, it's a great introduction into this local group, and it lowers that barrier to entry greatly. We have seen a lot of success with our guys' night event here locally. This started a few years ago where we got a handful of dudes together and all we did was just go bowling. Bowling has been a great event for us because it keeps our group close together. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I never really wanted to go see a movie as a group, because if we do that, then we're not socializing the entire time. With bowling, we grabbed some pizzas, which helped everyone stay together, and it helped us socialize even more. And I feel like each time we meet up, that we set some type of new record for the fastest time that 10 pizzas have ever been consumed. It is beyond impressive to watch our group devour pizzas. So for volunteers, I tell them, look, you can show up. All you got to do is just hang out. You don't have to hop in, and we're not giving you some grand responsibility. You can come and just show up and watch. I prefer to have a volunteer overseeing each lane at the bowling alley. This helps us just keep track, as some guys might forget when their turn is. Some end up over at the pizza boxes and nowhere else. Some end up in the restroom. Having a volunteer keep up with one lane has been super helpful. It's also really good to have two floaters. And these are guys that just wander around all of the lanes. They talk, they cheer, they yell, high five. They make sure that everybody is taken care of. And another big volunteer role is just making sure that every single person is involved and that every single person is included. I never want any of our guys just sitting off to themselves doing nothing. Our bowling nights have helped develop all kinds of friendships. And more importantly, they break down walls and they break down those barriers. Our bowling nights have helped develop all kinds of friendships, but more importantly, break down walls and barriers. Making our bowling nights for dudes only has been super fun. In fact, the ladies at church have paid close attention, and they have started a ladies' night as well. So there's a ton of options and benefits to starting a guys' night that extend well beyond just getting guys together. Our guys' night has not been solely for bowling. We've done the best that we can with changing it up periodically to incorporate other events, such as a game night or trivia night. At Southeast Christian Church, where I serve, we have a whole suite dedicated to our Shine ministry. And I love having access to the TVs so that we can host a trivia night. If this is something that is interesting to you, we have a free resource available on our website that I'll link in the show notes that you can download. And this resource is great. It has the PowerPoint template. It has suggested questions. It has a printable scorecard and a lot of other ideas on how we tried to make that night as inclusive as possible. We even have gone all out and to get a customized trophy. We did a giveaway with some gift cards like to Amazon and Nike just for fun. And the last time that we did it, we tried to take it up a notch, and we actually had a professional wrestling replica belt, which was just the coolest thing that I think that we could have given away. It was something that It was something that I wanted to take home myself. I really, I guess that's how you know it's a good prize, right? When you want to keep it for yourself. Another success story for us has been with our Rise Fitness program. Now, I'm not saying that after you listen to this podcast, you have to go out and start an entire fitness program at your church in order to get guys involved. Obviously, if you want to go that route, we can certainly help and we would love to chat with you about how to make that happen. But you can start much smaller than creating a program, but you can start just by meeting up and working out. This doesn't have to be max deadlift day. This can be something as simple as meeting up at a local park where everybody just gets together and goes for a walk. You get exercise, you get socialization, and by inviting men to come help with that, it's a perfect introduction where everybody can meet the group. This could also be a game night where you do some type of physical activity just to get everybody moving. One of the coolest things that we did recently was a Nerf gun war at one of our campuses. And it's kind of a little mind blowing that we could even do this in the first place. But some of the fellas at this campus apparently own some massive Nerf gun collection. Like I've never seen anything like this before in my life. But they also had, and this was super cool, they had inflatable barricades. I didn't really know how this was going to turn out. I just said, "Can you do this?" And they said, "Yeah, no problems." And we show up, and next thing you know, we are ready for battle. They turned the foyer basically into a war zone, and everybody had so much fun with it. And those that did not want to participate in the Nerf war, which kind of makes sense because not everybody was excited about the possibility of being shot in the face with a Nerf bullet. For those people, we had a video game option in another area of the church using one of the large screens, and that was a little bit more calm. Maybe those that didn't feel like running around and carrying shields and dodging barricades and bullets. The video game option was really good, and it also allowed them to socialize and take turns. We had some guys there kind of supervising that and making sure that people were sharing the controllers. So that worked out really well. All of these activities and events, you can easily recruit guys to help. Maybe it's just to bring pizza. Maybe it's to serve pizza. It could be to help set up Nerf guns. If you're lucky enough, like we were, to have somebody with an entire collection, that could just be their responsibility. It could be to monitor video games or to plan out a walking route. It might be just to set up and clean up. I love that there's so many different ways to introduce new volunteers into disability ministry. You might even have guys that are good with serving at one-time events or reoccurring opportunities. They might not be ready for a specific weekly commitment, so these one-time events are perfect for them. Those in this category are open to doing some things inside the box, which would be more inside the church just for like trial periods or to fill in from time to time. But those things are still so vital. Just this weekend, I remember getting a text and an email from our staff member at church where they were shorthanded. This is a great time for guys to step in and say, you know what? That's my job. I can fill in just when y'all are super short. Some of these roles can also include things like security, a respite volunteer, a chaperone, a van driver, a greeter, a small group host, maybe co leading a class, being a pen pal, or even starting a book club. Next, we have what we call inside the box opportunities. And these are opportunities for guys who are basically all in with serving in disability ministry. They've had a chance to test the waters and they found a place where they can see the incredible difference they're having with individuals and families affected by disability. I think these might be what a lot of guys are kind of expecting to see when they are asked to volunteer, but they're still so important. Things like being a buddy, being a friend, a one on one with somebody on Sunday mornings, being a table host. If your church has a class for teens or adults with disabilities, they're often looking for somebody to be a table host. This person is not responsible for teaching. They're just looking out for people to be hospitable, lead discussion, and make sure everyone's included. Sometimes these table hosts are needed to help everybody in their group work with a specific activity. And then there is the teacher. Every staff member, I think, that might be listening to this was like, yes, we need more people that want to volunteer to be a teacher. Trust me, I understand how intimidating this can be because I found myself in that position. But if you enjoy teaching or you think that it might be something of interest, there's always a place at your church for that. Discipleship in disability ministry is an absolute must. In the show notes for this episode, and I'll also put it up on a blog post, we'll add some quick links to all of the resources that I've mentioned, as well as some helpful stats regarding men being involved in this ministry. These are all things that you can take and immediately run with. These are all things that, unless I'm misspeaking, that these are all things that are freely available on our website. And these are tools to help you get men more involved and to maybe communicate better with leadership about how they can buy into these things with some of the stats and things that you're seeing. If you have any questions on getting started, one thing I want to leave you with is this: you can start right where you are. Every ministry is going to look different, and every ministry should look different. We offer free consulting, and we would love to set up some time to talk through ideas on how best for you to get started. Thanks for tuning in.
One in 5 people in the world live with a disability, so it shouldn't be difficult to find lots of images to represent this. However, that's not always the case. Disability is Beautiful provides an exhaustive library of art provided by and for the disability community. Our photos reflect the beauty, diversity, and strength of the disability community. Whether you're a business owner, a content creator, or an advocate, Disability is Beautiful has photos for use in blogs, websites, social media, printed materials, business, nonprofit, or personal projects. Visit disabilityisbeautiful.com to create your free account and help us change the face of stock photography.